The war for franchise cornerstones is about to intensify in ways that will reshape how every team in the NFC North approaches roster construction. And one move happening outside our division could completely alter the blueprint for how the Chicago Bears build this team over the next 3 years. Welcome to Bears News Fan Report, your dedicated source for every critical development, every strategic insight, and every piece of analysis that matters for our beloved Chicago Bears. I'm here to break down the latest draft projections, explain exactly how moves across the league impact our team's decision-making process, and reveal why one tackle prospect going earlier than expected could be the domino that changes everything for Bears Nation. Today, I'm walking you through a scenario that's gaining serious traction among draft analysts and NFL evaluators, something that connects directly to how General Manager Ryan Poles is approaching this upcoming draft cycle, and what it means for the Bears' long-term strategy. We're talking about premium position investment, offensive line philosophy in the modern NFL, and how one team's aggressive move in the top 10 could create a ripple effect that reaches all the way to pick 25, where Chicago is currently projected to select. Stay with me, because understanding this situation requires looking at the bigger picture of how championship-caliber organizations are prioritizing protection and physicality up front. The 2026 NFL draft landscape is taking shape in fascinating ways, with multiple teams making calculated decisions about where to invest premium resources. Quarterbacks are dominating the conversation at the top, which is standard operating procedure for any draft class, but the real story developing beneath that quarterback frenzy is how aggressively teams are moving to secure elite offensive linemen who can anchor their protection schemes for the next decade. We're seeing a philosophical shift across the league where general managers and coaching staffs are recognizing that investing early in offensive line talent isn't just smart, it's absolutely essential for sustained success. You can have all the skill position talent in the world, but if you can't protect your quarterback or establish line of scrimmage dominance, none of it matters when games get physical in November and December. Let me paint the picture for you about what's happening in the trenches across this draft class, because it provides critical context for everything else I'm about to tell you. This year's offensive tackle class is being evaluated as one of the deepest and most talented in recent memory, with multiple prospects possessing genuine left tackle upside and the athletic profiles that modern NFL offensive coordinators covet. We're not talking about developmental projects or reach picks based on measurables alone. These are battle-tested collegiate performers who've dominated against elite competition, who've shown technique refinement and football intelligence, and who project as immediate starters capable of handling premier edge rushers from day one. That level of talent always creates competition among teams picking in the top 15, because everybody recognizes that finding franchise tackles is one of the most difficult challenges in roster construction. The New Orleans Saints are currently sitting at pick number 7 in most mock draft projections, and their offensive line situation represents one of the most pressing needs in the entire organization. They've dealt with inconsistency protecting the quarterback, they've struggled to maintain physical dominance in the running game, and they need an infusion of young talent that can anchor their offensive line for the foreseeable future. When you're picking 7th overall and you have a glaring need at a premium position, the decision-making process becomes straightforward. You don't overthink it, you don't get cute, trying to trade back and accumulate picks. You simply take the best available player at your position of need and build your offense around that foundation. France's Mauigoa, out of the University of Miami, represents exactly the type of prospect that teams dream about finding in the top 10. This kid is massive, standing 6'5" and weighing in at 320 pounds. But he moves with the agility and footwork of someone 20 pounds lighter. He's got natural knee bend, which is absolutely critical for offensive tackles because it allows them to absorb power rushes and anchor against bull rushes without getting driven backward. His hand placement is advanced for a college player, showing the kind of technical refinement that usually takes years to develop at the NFL level. And most importantly, he's got that competitive temperament that separates good offensive linemen from great ones. You watch his tape, and you see a player who takes personal pride in dominating his matchup, who gets genuinely angry when an edge rusher wins a rep, and who plays with a physicality that translates perfectly to the professional level. What makes Mauigoa particularly intriguing for New Orleans is his immediate readiness to step in and contribute. The Saints aren't in a position where they can afford to draft a developmental project and wait 2 years for him to reach his potential. They need someone who can walk into training camp, compete for a starting role, and provide legitimate protection from week 1. Mauigoa checks every single box in that evaluation. He's played against top-tier competition in the ACC. He's handled elite edge rushers in big games, and he's demonstrated the mental processing speed required to handle complex NFL protection schemes. When draft analysts project him going 7th overall to New Orleans, it's not based on projection or upside. It's based on what he's already proven on tape and how seamlessly he fits what the Saints need. Here's where this becomes critically important for us as Bears fans and why I need you to pay close attention to how this draft board is shaking out. When premium tackles start coming off the board in the top 10, it creates scarcity at the position and forces teams picking later to adjust their strategy accordingly. The Chicago Bears are projected to pick 25th overall, and while we've got our own needs at edge rusher and other positions, the offensive line is always something Ryan Poles and this coaching staff are evaluating. Seeing someone like Mauigoa go 7th tells you everything about how the market values elite offensive line prospects, and it reinforces the importance of building from the trenches outward rather than the other way around. The domino effect of Mauigoa going to New Orleans at 7 is that it potentially pushes other tackle prospects down the board, which could create value opportunities for teams like the Bears later in the first round. When one premium tackle comes off early, it doesn't necessarily mean all the tackles fly off the board immediately afterward. Sometimes it creates a situation where teams who weren't initially targeting offensive line start to reconsider their approach, or where teams trading up leap past tackle-needy franchises to grab defenders or skill position players. That uncertainty and those strategic calculations are what make draft night so unpredictable and exciting. For Chicago specifically, watching how teams ahead of us approach offensive line talent gives Ryan Poles critical information about market value and potential trade opportunities. If teams are reaching for tackles earlier than expected, maybe that pushes defensive talent down to where we're picking at 25. If teams are surprisingly passing on offensive linemen, maybe that creates an opportunity for us to address depth along our own line, even if it wasn't the initial plan. The interconnected nature of draft strategy means that every pick impacts every subsequent selection, and understanding those dynamics is essential for maximizing value and building a complete roster. The Bears' current projection has us taking Romello Height, an edge rusher out of Texas Tech, at pick 25. Height brings legitimate length and developmental upside off the edge, giving Chicago another pass-rushing weapon to pair with Montez Sweat and the existing defensive front. That pick makes total sense given our defensive philosophy and the need to consistently pressure quarterbacks in a division featuring Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, and whatever the Vikings decide to do at quarterback. But the fact that we're looking at edge rushers at 25 rather than offensive linemen tells you that Poles feels comfortable with our current offensive line composition, or at least comfortable enough that he's prioritizing other positions in the first round. The broader lesson here, and what I want every Bears fan to understand, is that draft strategy in today's NFL requires understanding how the entire first round flows, not just focusing on our individual pick. When the Saints take Mauigoa at 7, they're making a statement about organizational priorities, and setting a market value for elite offensive tackle prospects. That decision cascades through the rest of the draft, influencing how other teams evaluate similar prospects and potentially creating opportunities or challenges for teams picking later. As Bears fans, we should be paying attention to these moves not just out of general NFL interest, but because they directly impact the options available when Chicago goes on the clock at 25. Now, I want to hear directly from you because your perspective matters in this community. Drop a comment below and tell me how you feel about teams like New Orleans investing premium picks in offensive linemen. Do you think the Bears should prioritize offensive line more aggressively in upcoming drafts, or are you comfortable with the current approach of building the defensive front first? And specifically regarding this 2026 draft, would you rather see Chicago take an edge rusher like Romello Height at 25, or would you prefer we target offensive line depth if the right player falls? Let's have that conversation in the comments. To wrap this all up, here's my final analysis on this Francis Mauigoa situation and what it means for Bears Nation. The New Orleans Saints using the 7th overall pick on a tackle from Miami represents the kind of aggressive, foundational building that championship organizations prioritize. Mauigoa brings immediate starting ability, long-term anchor potential, and the physical profile that translates perfectly to the NFL level. For the Chicago Bears, watching this selection happen ahead of us provides valuable intel about market dynamics and reinforces the importance of strategic flexibility as we approach our own pick at 25. Whether we ultimately go edge rusher, offensive line, or another position entirely, understanding how the board develops and why teams make the choices they make is essential for evaluating Ryan Poles' decision-making and our long-term roster construction strategy. Make sure you're subscribed to Bears News Fan Report right now for comprehensive daily coverage of every Chicago Bears development, every draft prospect analysis, and every strategic insight that impacts our team. Hit that subscribe button, activate notifications, and join our community of passionate Bears fans who demand the most detailed, informed analysis available. Share this video with every Bears fan you know, engage actively in the comments with your draft opinions, and let's continue building the premier Bears community on YouTube. This is where you get analysis that goes beyond surface-level takes. And I'm here every single day bringing you that perspective. Bear down, always.